Well, welcome boys and girls once again to the world's first and only live whiskey show. I am Sam Sneed with my illustrious mate, Mr. Whiskey Baron himself, Nigel Kelly.
You're right. Welcome to 2017, first one for the year.
Actually, this is true. We kind of took a couple of weeks hiatus, and if you will notice, I've had a wee bit of a trim here. I've got mine a little higher and tighter than Mr. Kelly here, as usual. I had to drop, probably about 2 kgs of hair today. And in fairness, there's a couple more gray ones in there. And it's because of this one behind the camera and this one over here. Otherwise, it wouldn't be white at all. All right, Nigel, we got some special bourbons that you brought back from America.
Yeah, so I was up in Colorado midway through late last year, and I went and visited Law's Whiskey House, and I had to say it was genuinely very, very impressed.
Can I interrupt you just real quick? Sorry, boys and girls. I just want to get Mr. Bardell to kind of pull in real quick, show the whiskeys, and Nigel's made his amazing mint juleps, and we'll get that nice frosty bit on there. If we have a new director, since our normal
shot
director.
you were looking for, Craig.
Yeah, Craig sent Nigel and I a whole script of how we had to handle this today. Okay, sorry, boys and girls.
So I visited there, and to be fair, I had been tasting quite a bit. So I bought a bottle of the 4-grain cask strength back, and
You met him at the show first, yeah?
No. I didn't. This was one of the whiskies I didn't actually get to try at the Distill.
Okay.
So because that had been a big night anyway, and I didn't get to see Law's. So went to visit Law's, tried this, brought this back just to get a second opinion from Sam, and so we decided to get some into New Zealand. And thank you very much, Mr. Alan Laws, because New Zealand is the very first country outside of the United States to be able to get this product.
So they're a true international bourbon or whiskey now.
They're now international. They're pretty small. Alan Laws was previously an investment banker. He decided back in 2006 he wanted to make whiskey. He was going to make good whiskey. He had the guy who used to be at Stranahan's, Jake Norris, I think it was, got in touch with him and got Jake to come down. He got the boys at Vendome to make him some very cool copper pot stills. And he bought this place up in, I want to say Acoma in Colorado.
Just let me just go back for those of you who maybe don't realize, Stranahan's is another famous Colorado whiskey. In fact, probably one of the whiskeys that I would say put Colorado on the map as far as being a good place
there's
to
like
do it.
70 odd craft distilleries
In
up there now.
Colorado.
It's amazing. So
New Mexico has quite a few now. Even up in Wyoming, Montana, as we know, has a couple. Obviously.
So Alan and Jake started making this this whiskey, and but they actually had it. It was pretty cool. They actually got the building. It was called Gargoyle Enterprises, so they didn't want to be disturbed for 3 years while they were making great whiskey. And so day one they opened
Is that
up.
really why they did that? They actually had a specific name?
That's what and the girl who did the tour that I went on was really good. She knew her stuff. It was one of those tours where it sounded like she could have actually made the whiskey herself. And it was pretty cool. We tried all these products. So we're going to try today the Sakale Straight Rye, which is bottled at 50%, and the 4-grain bourbon, which is bottled at 57.6%. Now,
Why do you call it 4-grain?
Well, because there's 4 grains, but there's not that many 4 grains, is there? I mean, there aren't.
I want to say a couple, 2 or 3. Willet's going to be coming out with one soon. I know Hudson had always had a 4-grain. And other than that, I'm sure there's some other craft breweries or distilleries that would have a few that I wouldn't know about.
I think I've got that mix pretty good.
And yeah, if you want to explain to the general public, because mint juleps, for those of you who don't realize, we are massive mint julep crazy around here. Nigel makes, for all of his faults, and yeah, he's Kiwi and all that, but he makes a freaking amazing mint julep. We do a lot of mint julep and pizza Fridays. And how'd you build this guy?
Solly Smith back in 1885. There's a whole diatribe about it, and he talks about that the zenith, then comes the zenith of man's pleasure, then comes the julep, the mint julep. He who has not tasted it has lived in vain. It's a very, very cool read if you go online and find it. But this has got some Mr. Bardell's fresh mint out of his garden, crushed in the bottom, with a little bit of Glenrothes New Make Spirit, about 3 or 4 mils in there, just for the mint to ferment in a little bit. I then crush the ice in a Lewis bag.
Which is crucial.
Which is crucial because it absorbs all the moisture away from there, so it doesn't become a slushy. This is an adult cocktail. And this one is actually, I've gone equal measure of the Sakale Rye and the 4-grain bourbon, and then about 12 mils of sugar syrup. I had to keep adjusting it because
so
the different
30 mil and 30 mil?
Yeah.
So we're talking 60 mils, not counting.
Well, it was 30-ish.
Yeah, not counting the New Make Spirit, about
way,
63% from Glenrothes. Okay.
So I reckon we should probably try. Well, first of all, we'd like a julep. It's tasting right.
Yeah, the julep. and we've made enough juleps around here to understand the difference. And it's always juleps, in my opinion, always are best served with a bit of rye, if not wholeheartedly rye, or a bourbon that's got a very high rye content.
Well, because the rye, and I mean, we've obviously tried the rye. I thought that the 4 grain would go really well with it, so it was an experiment. But we discussed this to start with. Probably going to go with the rye to start with, even though rye is typically a lot spicier. But the laws is a little bit different. So, do you want to pour us up, or?
Well, yeah. No, go ahead and pour. I'm going to do a little. If you'll notice, as Nigel and I are drinking our mint juleps, there are a couple of this beautiful color. And I have to say something about the bottles, by the way.
Yeah, not Sam, just the liquid.
No, any extra footage of me is always better, I say. But the decanter style bottles, the proper square bottles, I have to say I love the bottles. And I know this is kind of stupid to say, but damn, it's just the packaging, they look smart.
But it is cool. I mean, they're actually embossed with the Law's logo on it. It's got
it kind of reminds me of the old Wild West kind of thing. But anyway, so back to the mint juleps just quickly. If you'll notice as Nigel and I drink these things, you never, ever, ever, if someone ever hands you a mint julep, you'll know right away if they know anything about mint juleps. You always grab it from just and only the rim. You don't put your hand around the thing.
These
that
boys
is
have put up with me
serious
for
faux pas.
5 years going on about don't touch the frosting
You just
on the
can't.
julep.
If you see some, you just have, your heart just stops, it bleeds. And also, you don't drink it out of the rim either. You use the straw, drink it out of the straw.
Well, back in the days, that's where the julep
There's
strain
normally a
actually
wee
came
little
from.
filtering system because obviously it's not.
I have to say this is my own kind of addition to it, is using these straws with that, because typically you would either drink it out of the cup or you would have a julep strainer, which people had to keep the ice away from their teeth, which wasn't often the best. But look at the colour of that. I mean, it's a really deep dark colour. This is roughly about 3 years. One of Alan's big thing up there is that there are no shortcuts. The first thing that you see when you walk in the distillery is a blackboard, and it says that there's 5 ingredients to make whiskey, and I'm kind of thinking, okay, but it's grain, yeast, water, oak, and thyme, and it's like
you can't replace any one of those.
And you
not
can't
with wood
replace
chips.
No,
not with
and Alan's really big on that. It's craft over commodity, it's quality over quantity. Everything is about making sure that this is good stuff. But this is going to be a different rye than what we would get out of Kentucky, because it's not as hot in Colorado. So
and the rye is homegrown as in Colorado.
Yep. So, and my understanding, and I need to confirm this with Alan, is that I believe that it's 50-50 on the rye, so it's 95% rye, but 50-50 malted and unmalted rye that he uses in there. Plus
that would be very
5%
surprising, because unmalted rye, it would seem to, for me, as far as I understand, it seemed it'd be a little bit harder to extract those sugars.
So I may have read that wrong, but the mash bill is 95% rye and 5% malted barley, and it is all Colorado grown, which I think is pretty cool in and of itself. On the nose, great colour. Slauncher, by the way.
So one of the things, Nigel and I, a lot of times you'll see us, we'll open up the whiskeys or bourbons on the show. But in this case, we actually have tried it. Obviously, Nigel's had quite a bit of experience with it, as you can bloody well tell.
Even just today.
But what we noticed, and we both kind of noticed it at the same time, is you expect a lot of big heat from a rye. Like the Willet rye that we drink a lot of around here. And you get that nice, big, spicy heat. But with this, I noticed right away, I mean, even with the cask strength at 63% or whatever it is.
63.8.
And you don't get that heat. And it dawned on me that the aging process in Colorado is going to be a heck of a lot different than the aging process in Kentucky, where it's not quite as hot and quite as cold, but they don't have the humidity as well. So you've got, it doesn't quite get that hot, but it gets cold as hell, and they're in the heart of the Rocky Mountains there in Colorado. So they're not going to have that massive, massive temperature fluctuation, but a big enough temperature fluctuation. But it's a lot drier in Colorado. Let's say the humidity in Colorado, 20-25%, give or take, as opposed to 90% or more in Kentucky and Tennessee styles. So it's going to age a little bit different. It's not going to penetrate that wood as fast and as much, hence not quite as hot as we say.
Everything they do up there is 53-gallon white oak. And interesting, they only use number 3 chart.
No, so don't go full alligator, full.
Just go number 3.
We actually have a sample.
Anyone from Law's watching this who can pull me up on anything wrong, then please do so. But that's as I understood it from the tour and some of the notes that Peyton and Alan very kindly sent me.
But see, that's crazy drinkable. That's 50% alcohol, that is.
And you don't know it's 50%, which is dangerous.
It's got a great mouthfeel. It seems a bit more oily.
Yeah, like when we tried it the first off the bat, we were kind of looking at it and we weren't 100% sure on it. just what to make of it because it is so different. But there's almost like on the nose, there's like
Nice little nuts.
baked like a baked bread or scones or something along those. Even the
Nuts,
the
pecan.
crazy American biscuits. And you know what the other one was?
What do you mean crazy American biscuits?
Was cinnamon.
This is where this is from.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
what
nice
you
little
call
cinnamon notes in there. It took a little while for the cinnamon to show up when we first opened it, but now it's had a chance to open up a bit. Real rich on the nose. And at 50%, I don't feel like I'm reaching for ice, I'm reaching for water. It's just,
Although
it's got a brilliant nose, it really does.
purely for reference and research purpose, I have tried this with the ice, and I have to say I thoroughly enjoyed it. As the ice started to dilute the drink, and I was getting that.
Did you use an ice ball or cubed ice?
I tried it. I've tried it with both.
Because it does make a difference.
Oh, it does make a difference because the ice cubes melt a little bit faster, so you get that dilution a little bit faster.
So that cinnamon really,
It's actually developed. So we opened this 2-3 days ago.
Yeah.
I think this whiskey is now looking far better than when we initially tried it. Although it was like kid in a candy store. Let's try all 4 of the different ones that.
pretty impressive though that any kind of whiskey, I don't care what it is, at 50%, if you don't feel like you're reaching for ice or water right away, I mean, there's no burn, it's a lot more creamier and smoother than like a Tennessee or a Kentucky style.
So on
rye.
that, will we add water to it, or do we need to actually be putting ice in there?
Well,
I suppose we always add water, don't we? So I suppose that's really the litmus test.
Well, this is bourbon though. We could certainly add a couple of key. Yeah, go grab two little small.
You talk to the crowd, and
Yeah,
I'll just.
We'll stay here with me. Closer up, the better up. Closer up, the better up. Is that Jonathan? Can I say that? But and when you try them side by side, see, as me and Nigel pointed out, you're talking 70 mils of alcohol in the julep. And then you go back to the bourbon, and no, I'm not going to get drunk on this show, but I'm just trying to prove a point of the similarities. And you can actually taste the bourbon in the cocktail. That's why we preach so much about if you're, with bourbons carry a higher alcohol percentage, 45, 47, 50, 50+%. It's so much better because typically with bourbons, you're going to probably be making cocktails, whether it's mint juleps, whiskey sours, old fashions, and so on. And with that higher alcohol, you can actually taste this bourbon, this rye, in the mint julep, which is crucial.
Well,
I think.
You know, the other one in there is brown sugar. Is really
Oh yeah,
something
well, we talked about that the other day. Definite brown sugar in there. Like cook, you know when you scorch brown sugar on the top of creme brulee or something like that? That's what it tastes like. Caramelized, however you want to say it.
So I'm putting 1 cube of ice in there.
I think.
So how would you quantify that in terms of if we were just adding water to something?
Well, it depends on the rate of meltage.
I just thought you
Surely
might
that's
have-
a word.
I thought you would have had some sort of ratio in your head that you'd be able to pull out.
I'm smart, just not that smart. But I appreciate you looking at me for those kind of chemical, those kind of answers. All right, so you know you're not going to get. Actually, it's going to be quite similar to the way you and I use a pipette.
You know
we
what?
gotta
So,
say the
so,
proper
so,
word.
so straight away, that's softened it down. But it's also, Craig, if you just come in, notice how the colour has softened off a lot as
It's
well.
gone more golden.
Yeah, it's
than
gone that
amber.
real golden rather than that big, deep sort of colour that we had initially.
But see, the nose on it's still beautiful.
I really like this.
You get a really nice like pancake syrup now.
Actually, it's very good pancake syrup.
Those in Colorado will completely understand pancake syrup. Pancake syrup. But see, actually, you can tell there's quite a bit of alcohol in there. Look at my ice cube. It's decimated. So 50% alcohol can melt an ice cube pretty quick. In fact, mine's gone.
Just about. Oh. So, what difference has it made to you? Obviously, you got instant dilution. Better, different.
It's not as rich, not as full. I would actually prefer, even though it's at 50%, I would say I preferred that just right out of the bottle.
So just while we're talking on this, they do actually do a cask strength of this, and what I found interesting about the cask strength they do with the rye, and I suppose we have to do that at one stage, but they actually take the rye out of some of these barrels at cask strength, and they refer to it as the cream. And the vintage, or the expression that we've got is 63.8%, which is just phenomenal. But again, Craig.
So now wait a minute. They'll extract not the whole barrel, like 10, 15, 20, 30 gallons or whatever the case may be, and bottle it.
Yep. They'll take out of the barrel X amount that they want, and that is what they refer to as the cream.
Okay.
And then this will be proofed down to 50% when it's ready to go.
Shit, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think so.
I don't know
Now,
of anyone else that does
I
something
can't
like that.
confirm that's the same with the 4 grain, but it sounds like it could be a thing. But
And by the way, 4 grain, for those of you who don't know or realize, in the States you can pretty much count on the 4 grain obviously being corn, malted barley, and then in the middle you have your rye and wheat in there, because traditional bourbons are malted or corn, rye, and malted barley, and then they'll substitute for the rye, like Maker's Mark, Pappy Van Winkle. They don't use rye; they'll use wheat instead. So the 4 grain, all 4 married together. And I gotta say, honestly, that rye is seriously, you know how, I mean, look, we're nerds when it comes to rye around here. We love, love, love our rye. And there's been some ryes that we've definitely not thought that much of, that are around 150 bucks or whatever. But
well, it was 177, the one that you were talking about.
yeah, some of them
you won't chuck it under the bus,
but you know, I love a good quality rye. I want the heat, I want the spice.
that
and
brown
that's-
sugar, baked goods, the whole cinnamon, the pancake syrup, I think is a great call on there.
But I do, pardon the pun, or lack of a better way to put it, it feels watered down now.
Yeah,
I miss, it doesn't have the depth, it doesn't have the character.
So when we go off air, we'll probably experiment with the car strength and see how it goes with the ice, and then we'll do that on the air. At some
But drink
stage.
your mint julep. You can
I know.
actually taste the
You can
water.
taste that. That's
You
why I
can
keep
taste
going
it.
back to you. You can actually pick out the individual components of it.
While we're banging on about that, we'll hide those two, and we will jump into now the cask strength 57.6 4 grain.
So it's the mash bill is 60% corn, 20% wheat, 10% rye, 10% malted barley, which is relatively high for the malted barley content. That was the other thing I wanted to talk to you about.
by the way.
No,
Sorry, I missed that.
So-
I was concentrating.
That is what we call a Craig Bardell pour. Look at the size of that.
Well, Craig is behind
And what-
camera.
what about
Oh,
Darth?
Jesus. Yeah, Darth has got to have some of that. Darth, as you say. And for those of you who haven't seen The Force Awakens or Rogue One,
Yeah, Rogue
you
One.
need to get out there and see it, damn it. Darth makes a good appearance.
So straight away, the colour of that is
I reckon it's the whiskey that we've been feeding that helped him come back. I'm pretty sure that's what it was. Okay, so go.
So so 60% corn, 20% wheat, 10% rye, and 10% malted barley. Now, most of the bourbons we've seen with about 5% malted barley.
Typically, yeah.
So the malted barley in this is a little bit higher. How many? I mean, there aren't that many wheated bourbons, but there's a few of them. In terms of the amount of wheat, how does that sit? Say, let's say against Maker's Mark or.
Well, at Maker's Mark, they'd be using a hell of a lot more wheat because that's their, next to corn, would be their strongest part of the profile. I do find it interesting that they have twice as much wheat as they do rye.
Yeah.
And I'm of the mind, the reason being is rye is a much more dominant cereal or oat or however you want to grain. And because it's so much more hotter, spicier, wheat tends to be more softer and sweeter. Like for those of you who drink Maker's Mark or Pappy Van Winkle and you love that whiskey and you don't really know why, that's probably why. It's that wheat coming through where it's soft and sweet and really easy to drink, as opposed to a heavy on the rye style whiskey that's more spicy, more hot, and that might not be your cup of tea. For me, it is my cup of tea. I love, love, love my ryes. Now, in comparison, different, softer, hotter, well, you cask strength now, we're talking.
It's cask strength, so it's 57.6%.
But it's only 7 points more.
So it's only 7 points more, but again, you're not noticing it. I mean, in a blind lineup, would you be picking this as going, this is nearly 60% alcohol?
Well, it doesn't blow my nasal cavity out of whack.
No.
You know, normally, if you're nosing 57% alcohol, you're getting hit really hard. Those olfactors are going to jump out of your nose, even my big nose. They'll just jump right up.
The colour of that is just super. There's almost like an orangey copper
Amber.
note going on to that.
A real
Donald
deep.
Trump, fat tan.
Just because your boy's getting inaugurated tomorrow, let's not be coming down on him. That's
We
the
don't
new.
get comments from the cameraman. What's going
Yeah.
on?
What's going on here? Where's Tim? Tim doesn't make comments like that. Down in front.
Oh.
Hmm.
See, now this is what I tried.
That's got a great.
Yeah.
There's that pepper though.
Yeah.
Jiminy Christmas.
When I was at Laws and I tried this, we tried a bunch of whiskies, and the girl who did the tour, I asked her about the cask strength. She kind of looked at me and maybe thought maybe I was half serious, even with my crazy accent. and we tried this. I bought a bottle of it. I bought a bottle back here, and this is what we
I
tried.
find that funny. Went back to my country and they were saying you had a crazy accent. That's good.
But so I brought it back here because I just wanted to go. Geez, you know what it's like. You go to a place and you get all crazy because you're having a great time at their place and you try stuff. Was I actually tasting what I thought I was tasting? And I think this absolutely delivers 100%.
Well, it's interesting because you would expect, well, I mean, if you think about it, the soft and delicate nature of wheat compared to the hot, spicy, aggro, aggressive style of rye, and
That
those
was
two
the chair.
budding, but it actually works. I'm sure that was a chair.
Yeah.
But it somehow balances, and there's a beautiful balance to that. You can actually taste the wheat in there. You can get those pecans, which that's going to be coming from that wheat.
And I will note that it's taken us 5 years, but he doesn't say pecans anymore. He says pecans.
I've always said pecans. I don't know where that's coming
We're
from.
Kiwiified.
I've always said pipette. I've always said Hebrides. I'm trying my best to teach these kids English around here, and it's just taking me a long while.
So same as with the Sakale. Oh, now, by the way, the Sakale rye. Sakale is the Latin term for rye. Sakale cereale, I think, if I'm saying it correctly.
So
that's where
rye
the Sakale
cereal?
rye. Yeah. So that's where the name
I
comes
say,
from.
I don't know if it's because I've been drinking the mint julep or had a bit of ice, but my palate's soft enough now. I'm afraid if I put ice in it, I'll kill it.
Well,
I've got to find out.
Your palate has been warmed up now.
But I just want to see. I have to drink it quick, so I don't want that ice cube to melt. I drank it pretty quick, but it didn't change it as drastically as it did rye. I don't know if that's because of the wheat.
You know what? I actually, well, I mean, I liked it neat, but I'm going to put a bunch of ice in there just to try
Kind
and
of water it down a bit.
Well, just to actually stop it from melting. Hopefully, the ice will work against the.
Yeah, that's not going to happen.
That's
I
not
don't know
going to
where you
happen.
went to school,
Yeah. Well, I thought the ice would overwhelm it.
Poor
So,
little Kiwi. He's trying to cool his glass down. But, bless him. I'll give him a hug after off camera. I like the nose. I don't think it's changed the nose as fast as it did on the rye.
that's the one thing I say about it. Both of those are dangerously easy to drink at 50% and 57.6%.
That's the advantage bourbon has over Scotch. Bourbon holds its alcohol so much better than Scotch. At 57% with the Scotch, you are reaching for the water because you're on fire.
Well, it's like you say, when you smell it, you're getting that big hit in the nose. This, you're not doing that. So.
I feel like I'm bloody. How much alcohol have we had here? Jesus, Jones.
Well, there's at least 60, maybe 65. Who can tell?
I feel like I'm being taken advantage of. Next thing you know, somebody's going to roofie me here on live TV.
So what else do we need to say? It's 4 grain bourbon, and I don't know that there are that many 4 grain.
Where's the distillery actually in Colorado? In
So
Denver?
I think it's called Acoma. It's not that far out of the main part of Denver. We didn't seem to take
North,
us that
south,
long.
east, west?
You
were there.
I was a passenger in the car. I was being driven.
Lordy. You were paying attention to our other former camera lady, the only camera lady we ever had, Tara. He was probably thinking about her, bless his little heart.
Well, she was my tour guide. So yeah.
And do we
So
care?
so thank you very much, Tara. She was the lady who introduced me to the laws. I have to say I'm incredibly proud that we were able to get some of this whiskey from the Lord's Whiskey Distillery, because we are the very first place outside of the United States to be able to
That's
get
pretty
this.
cool. That's very, very cool.
So Alan is actually a Canadian, so Canada will be the second international, but we were able to pip them and get that in here in New Zealand. So I'm not sure how we're going for time, but
No, we get talking too much as we do.
yeah, so thank you very much for joining us again. Thank you to the lovely people up at Laws for making this happen, particularly Peyton and obviously Mr. Alan Laws for allowing us to get this product. And
Very, very, very good product. I have to say,
I'm
very, very good.
incredibly happy with this.
And look,
product.
you guys know I'm anal with my bourbons and some stuff.
Is that a word we're allowed to use?
Well, it's a simple adjective. It's a descriptor, yes. So yeah, very, very, very good product, and a very good mint julep that's made with said product. So, boys and girls, until we're finally back, we're back on schedule. We'll have a proper cameraman next week, and not a cameraman that speaks and pipes in with his interjections.
Talking cameraman. Who would have
What's
thunk it?
going on? Producers don't talk. Anyway, until next week, Nigel, Sam, and
Sure.
Laws, thank you so much. Enjoy. Happy New Year.
Cheers. And zoom in to the product, and
Zoom in on
and
me.
we're out.